Hi everybody, it's Neil Walters with Neil's Videos. Today I'm actually jumping ahead as to the competition coming up this week, at least supposedly. Everybody in the know seems to think they know what it is. So what I did is I watched this video here. Let me show you, this is in Discord. Ben, and I watched him on Twitch, TELVATH TV, and he had a pretty good video. It was like, I think it was an hour or two talking about his ideas. And then down here, you got a couple other people giving their ideas. Like here, I've got one of them loaded on the screen. But personally, I don't know how you can build that many nuclear plants. I mean, maybe they've done it before and I haven't, but those nuclear plants are 10 million each. So, um, just real quick, according to the other guy, this is a screenshot from his video. What we're going to, the build for this week or the meta is going to be energy is what you're going to do to get points or to win, basically. And jet fuel is what you're going to use for cash to basically be able to build your board out and to be able to afford to build all these nuclear power plants and stuff. So it's not actually possible to really practice a build like this because they have to set those meta fields up. But I'll show you what I did anyway, okay, in just a second. So I'm going to review for you first. I'm going to open several screenshots I took from Dubstep Rod's playbook. Okay, so these are the things you need to be up on when you're going to play this week. Let me set the size. Okay, so these are what he calls the cards, which gives you the details about some of the objects and the NFTs that will be used this week. So here's the nuclear power plant. Of course, it does take 10 million to build. And to build a nuclear power plant, you're going to have at least one or two or three mines all creating iron. And then you're going to need a steel mill in order to make the steel to build your nuclear power plants. And then this is how much power it will give off. But you really want it because it's going to create these batteries. And according to the other guy, he said it's going to create a battery every 5 seconds. And here it says the normal crafting time for battery is 20 seconds or energy, right? So again, if the build this week is for energy, and that's how you win points, everybody is thinking, okay, I need a bunch of nuclear power plants. And of course, if they spin these things off every 5 seconds, that's the way to do it, right? And that makes sense. But you're going to have the $10 million over and over and over again to build multiple nuclear power plants. And I don't know still in my mind how much that jet fuel is going to enable you to do that. It depends, I guess, exactly what price they put on it on the sale of the jet fuel. So that's the first thing you need to know about is the nuclear plants. Now they have to be built next to a water pump, and of course your water pump has to be next to a pond, and your power plant has to be next to a paved road. Okay, so there's a lot of requirements there. And so again, if you look at, if we go back to, okay, so you can look at this guy's video that's in the Discord and the other guys to figure out different possible ways of how you can optimally place your power plants next to your water pumps and your roads. Okay, so I'm sure there's many different ways to do that. And since it's 10 million each, I've never really gone that far. So they use this tool here, town-guide.eu, to kind of lay out your town ahead of time to see what it's going to look like. But of course, you can't really run your town on that tool. So you don't really know how it's going to perform. The other thing I think he's got here that's pretty cool. This is your that black spot is your oil spill, which you can only get in a desert. So you want to be in a desert biome. And then he said, basically, I'll show you again on the spread out here in a minute. But see how he says all these different refineries are going to be able to get, or at least some of them are going to be able to get the two crude oils they need to make petroleum. And then I guess his other refineries here would be making the jet fuel. Actually, so yeah, there's a little symbol on there. It's hard to see. The blue barrel is like the petroleum, and then the red barrel is the jet fuel. So he kind of uses a plus sign sort of here arrangement, and that's pretty cool. That's something I didn't really think of. You'll see my practice build here in just a second. Okay, so this is your oil seep, and you can see here, I didn't realize it put out as much oil as it did. So you can be like 3 spots away and still get 2 of oil. Okay, so anywhere, I mean, you really definitely want to maximize the use of your oil seep. Okay, the next thing is if you have an NFT, such as any of what they call the haunted items, there's a west wing, east wing, and some other thing. Anyway, they all create crude oil as well, but not near as much as the oil seep. So I have one of these, and I'll be using that in my build. And then the next thing you need to know is, of course, your power plant. And similar to a nuclear plant, you have to have it next to a water pump, and the water pump has to be next to a pond. It needs to have a paved road, and it will create energy as well. So my theory is you're going to use a lot of power plants at the beginning of the game to get some energy and some points until you have the money to build your nuclear power plants. Okay. So again, everybody has different theories of how this is going to work, right? And then of course, here's your energies. And of course, you can use wind turbines, but that's not going to get you very far. You need power plants or nuclear power plants to make a lot of these. Okay. And the one issue, I guess, is if you're using a power plant to make them, that will require 2 crude oil. And that's why you want to be next to an oil seep, even if you have a refinery building the batteries, because that oil seep will give you your 2 crude oils, and you don't have to waste spaces having the crude oil pumps all over your town. Okay. And the final thing then here is just your steel mill. I always have trouble saying that. And it's very similar to the others. You're going to need the water pump and the paved road to do that. But you'll need this to build the steel to build your power plants. And that means you're going to need iron. And then, of course, that means you need a mine or two to be able to build the iron. And so ideally, I think you want to be in a desert mountain. You want to have a mountain on the side, desert, and then either an ocean or a river, hopefully on the other side. And that way you can have the other guy was talking about having one of the big ships that'll carry 100 items at a time, because you're going to be making so many of these batteries or energies that it's going to be more efficient to send 100 of them at a time on the big ship rather than to send them 10 at a time in the express trucks. So that's one important idea this week. Okay, I can show you a live video here in just a few minutes, but this is how I started my town. So there's my mountain on the right side. Here's my first little boat, and then later I added the big boat that'll handle 100, and I still have a truck up here as well. But I started this week to practice with. I built the pumpkins because we're still in the meta build where the pumpkins make the cash, right? So when I do the real game starting tomorrow, I think I'm still going to have to do like a wool rush here or something, because to build your first refinery, to get your first batteries and stuff, is still going to take several hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? So, you might try to hurry up and build one refinery, one power plant next to your oil seep and start getting the batteries as soon as possible. But to do that, you still have to have a paved road, which requires lumber. And then to have lumber, you need a wood mill. And then you have to have a lumber yard. And you have to have, storage and all this kind of stuff. So it still costs, like $500,000 of the play game money to be able to build your first power plant and everything that it requires, right? So you're going to have to rush some kind of product up here. So I'm probably going to go with wool or something like that. And one thing I will do different, I believe, in my next game is I will shove all this green stuff here over toward this border, because I don't want shade from these houses here. And then eventually stuff I build here is going to cause pollution. So I want that to be like in the corner, not kind of like I did in the middle here. But the problem with that is like at the beginning of the game, you have a road here and you have a pond here and all that kind of stuff. So you kind of want to use it. And of course, it takes a little bit of money to destroy all these trees and cactus and things like that. So again, you're always at odds as to how to build your city best. So, maybe I'll rush the wool here at first. And then later, once I get my power plants making the batteries, and I'm getting that, oh no, sorry, getting my jet fuel made. Not sorry, yeah, sorry, not refineries. I said that backwards. You want your refinery as soon as possible to start making jet fuel so you can have cash to build the rest of your game. So your goal should really be to have a couple of refineries, one to make your petroleum, one to make your gas, and then one to make jet fuel as soon as you can. But that's still going to require the money, right? So that was my first part of my build, was that one. This is my second screenshot in my build. There, I just started building my next little quadrant over here, which is starting a pond there, and I'm going to build around that. You'll see in a minute. And then I kind of also record the mistakes I made. So like I said, I was sort of practicing, and I learned, this is a minor little thing, but you don't want to put a water, what's it called, a water well next to a trade depot because of the pollution. That's a minor little thing. So here was the next part of my build. I was starting to build my logger houses down this row, and I think that was a mistake as well. So next time I want to build my logger houses, I'll have a few mines over here shortly, and then I want to put my logger houses over here, um, just to kind of keep them away from everything. Plus I have that one road there and kind of have just a lonely row over here, so it's a perfect place to put them. So that would be one of my major changes. And then I can have all these crops, like I said, over here, because you're still going to need trees as long as you're building. I mean, once you get most of your town built, you'll be able to cut down your number of trees and your loggers at some point, maybe. But this may be one of those games you're building all week, because with the money at the $10 million per power plant, unless they change the price of that, it's going to take a while. Maybe they are lowering the price. I haven't heard about that. Here was my next screenshot. I think this is almost when I went to bed. I did this build on a Sunday afternoon. And so you can see now here I have another little quadrant with your water pumps around the ponds. And you can see basically I'm just trying to stuff refineries and power plants everywhere I can. And then here are my two mines up here. And I did build a lumber mill up here because I had this problem in my last game where the guys didn't have time to come over here and get the lumber, and somebody else would get the lumber first, and they were never getting any lumber. So I could have either put the mines down here lower and then put maybe my logger houses up there, or I just went ahead and built a lumber mill here, and I think later I'm gonna have a lumber yard close to there too, so they'll be able to get their lumber without having to fight with other people. I started building my forklifts. I have got 3 of them now because you're going to need those guys to transport your batteries around. I think. Maybe not. I have to look at that more still, actually. And then you see my next quadrant will be down here eventually. There's my big ship that will carry 100 items at a time. And now let's go to my current game. So I solved the problem about how to record videos. Before I wasn't having enough machine power to run the video and the game basically at the same time. So now I think it's not going to be as impacted. I bought another laptop and I have remote desktop. I use Windows 11, which is the new operating system. And if you buy the professional version, it allows you to remote desktop from one computer to the other. So you can see here I'm on. This is my desktop over here that I'm making the video on, and now this is my gaming desktop, basically. So this is my current town. And it's still kind of me. It's starting to be a drag. It just takes so long to build these things. Excuse me, voice. It takes so long to build these things. You just build something and wait, and build something and wait, and build something and wait. So in that way, it's kind of like a passive game. Like here, when I first opened this, I had 2 or 3, 4, 5 buildings that were all being built while I was doing the video. Right now, I can do some more building over here and let that take place, kind of like in the background. Oops, that little guy needs a road, doesn't he? I was trying to move some of my pumpkins away from once I put this power plant or refinery here, it started giving me issues with my pumpkins. So I'm still using the pumpkins for cash because right now I'm not getting the money from the jet fuel like we will when we have the new build this week, the new meta, okay? So I'm still kind of I still kind of like this idea of quadrants and stuff like this. I see other people building, totally different patterns, and their patterns might be better, but so far this has kind of been the way I like to build things. That way you have roads for everything, and everything moves faster. But I know there are ways you can pack more stuff in more densely, but I haven't really considered, the pluses and minuses to that yet. Okay, so at this point, see now I finally have overnight, I got like my first $10 million to play money, right? And so now I almost have 20. So I should be able to build 2 power plants like this morning. And it may take another, see at this rate, the rate I'm going now, it looks like I could only build a nuclear power plant. I could only build a nuke about every maybe 3 or 4 hours. So again, unless the jet fuel is going to be a lot more money than the pumpkins are, that's not going to be so easy. So my idea now is I actually have a water pump here, and I could put 2 nukes right next to that. So let's go ahead and start one of those. Right here, we can do build. Anyway, there's the first one. And again, you're mainly building it just for batteries, not to power the squares around it. Of course, it will give you power to your refineries, but you're mainly wanting those batteries so you can sell them to get the points. And your points show up up here. This is your stars or your points, and that's what you need to place in the top of the competition. That doesn't matter there because we're on a test server right now. So again, things I would do different. Again, I put my logger houses, more of them over here. You can see I put the last 3 down here, and now I can get rid of these 2 old lumberjack houses here. I don't want those affecting my crops. And then that logger house might be nice to move him too. So eventually, all these, like I said, all these trees, should probably be over here by the border eventually. I have to have all these water towers because the pumpkins require 10 water. And of course, the trees don't require near that much. So when I don't have the pumpkins there in the real game this week, I will be able to totally reconfigure how and where I put my water towers. This was kind of bad here. Like, see, I could put another, actually, I could put a nuke plant right here, a nuclear power plant there as well, because we have a water pump with 1 spot available. Unfortunately, diagonals don't work. You can't put a power plant or a nuclear power plant on a diagonal to a water pump, even though it will give water to things diagonally, like the wood mill. So like this wood mill, or sorry, lumber mill here could actually be moved. And then that way, that would give me 1 more spot for a power plant or a nuclear power plant. Oh, I'm using my new warehouse. I bought 2 of these warehouses this week. They hold 60 items, so those are going to be great. And when I let the game run overnight, I went ahead and built a lot of other warehouses. So see, I had to build 3 warehouses here to do what one of these would do. But I wanted to make sure that my batteries and my steel, and mostly my steel and my iron, had plenty of space to hold it all overnight, because I'm selling 100 of the batteries at a time. So if that's 60 and that's 60, that's 120. And so I figured I still needed a little buffer to hold all the other miscellaneous items that are coming along there. The little wells over here just to help me get my ponds built when I need a pond. Got my water facility here, so that can provide water to the mines, and or temporarily, if I have like a refinery that needs it, it can provide water to that refinery, but hopefully I don't depend on that too much. Another possibility for the logger houses would maybe to put them up here, and then across the street here, you might be able to have a couple refineries, because they're going to basically get some passive energy from all these power plants that I have down here. Even though they're 2 squares away, they're going to get some. So that could be another mistake or another improvement, that my logger houses could come up here. Because here I have a pond and a water pump, so it's actually possible, toward the end of the game, that I could have a bunch of power plants up here in this area too, or I can put them down here and have the loggers up there. So again, there's so many decisions to make in this game, and I guess that's why it's fun. It's like it's like 3D chess, right? It's like you really have to plan things out, and again, as a casual player, I don't consider myself like a professional TownStar player, like some people are. Like, I don't need to win the prize, and it's nice to get place in the top, whatever. But again, when I say this all the time, when you work during the day and stuff, you can't just give your life to one game, right? It's fun, but don't obsess about it unless you're earning your living by it, okay? And I don't know, I guess I'm assuming the prizes this week will be Gala coins, and maybe it's another NFT, but they don't usually tell you the day before. And I don't know where, again, all these people are getting the exact secrets as to what's the build going to be for this week. I think there was a vote that Discord had, and I guess they're basing it upon the items that are available in the vote. But again, I think everybody's still kind of speculating exactly what the next meta is going to be, and we have a rough idea, but like we don't know all the exact details. So the game will begin Tuesday as usual, and we'll see how everybody does. So good luck, and let's compete and see what we can earn and make this week. This is Neil Walters. I'll see you in the next video.